Hello everyone, this is part 48 of What If Naruto Had a Hug That Changed Everything, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. When he felt nothing come his way, Gigi grabbed his trusty cane beside him and staggered to his feet. He stared at the blonde woman curiously. What's this, now? No pummeling. No merciless beat down. Tsunade frowned deeply just before she held up the sealing relic given to her by Sasuke. A smile came upon the bald traveler's face as he saw this. Just as I anticipated, he did the right thing after all. Perhaps he is the one, Gigi thought to himself. You do realize that, had it not been for this, you'd already be a smear on the face of this building, right? Tsunade mentioned with some rather heinous venom in her voice. The notion had crossed my mind, Gigi answered with a slight grimace. Not buying her older counterpart's little routine, she immediately grew impatient. I've had enough of your mind games, old man. Why did you give this to the Uchiha? She demanded. Gigi pushed up his small glasses as he turned toward the edge of the building. Because I knew I could trust him. He has sound judgment, but still lacks proper guidance. Tsunade stared after the bearded geyser suspiciously. Knew you could trust him. You don't even know him, she protested. True, but he did exactly as I expected of him, twice, Gigi explained further. Tsunade could feel her impatience getting the better of her as she tried to listen to Gigi's words. If any of her past experiences were any indication, then the old man's words have always carried some kind of hidden meaning to them that she would never catch until much later. Then answer me this, why are you here? The medic master questioned as she stashed the sealing relic away. Gigi stood silent as he stared off upon the beauty of Konoha. I came here to warn you, Tsuhime. Naruto Uzumaki must not be allowed to live within these village walls any longer than necessary. What the? How do you know about Naruto? And what on earth do you mean? Tsunade demanded. How I know about the boy is totally irrelevant. What is important, is that you listen to my words very carefully, Gigi said, much to Tsunade's anger. Swallowing her pride the best she could, the blonde Sannin steeled her will to listen to the old man, regardless of how much she wanted to punch his head off. You are well aware of Naruto's weakened fire seal, correct? Tsunade silently nodded. Do you know why the seal has weakened to such an exponential rate? For him to be able to summon two of the Kyuubi's tails. Tsunade gave careful thought to that prospect. Then perhaps you realize that Kuro's influence upon Naruto was not natural, Gigi threw out there. What influence? It was upon that question that Gigi reached into his robe pocket. Bracing herself out of instinct, Tsunade watched the old traveler carefully as he relinquished a handheld bag. He reached into the bag and pulled out a handful of strange yellow powder. What is that? The hazel-eyed woman questioned. A curse to human nature, Tsuhime, Gigi answered as he watched the tainted powder seep through his wrinkly fingers, a plague as evil as the madman responsible for its creation. Tsunade gave Gigi's words even more careful consideration. Kuro. That's right. This powder, this evil concoction, is the end result of Naruto's grave misfortune. It works like a virus. When inhaled, it courses through the bloodstream. Its purpose in its travels through the body is to reach the heart and brain. And when its course is complete, the host is nothing short of a ticking time bomb of death and destruction, Gigi explained. Feeling her worry start to creep up on her, Tsunade unconsciously rose her hand to her chest. What are you telling me, old man? Are you saying that Naruto was? The aged traveler lowered his head with regret. I'm afraid so, Tsuhime. The gold-clad old man sighed. The grains of this powder have Kuro's very soul woven into them. Upon his will and his will alone, are the powder's effects active. The blonde Hokage could only look away into the distance as she pondered the future outcome of all of this. How? Pardon. How do I stop it? The old man sighed before placing the sack of dormant powder back in his golden robe. Tsuhime, you know as well as I do that it's too late, Gigi yelled as he was abruptly yanked by the collar of his robe. Of all times to play your games, old timer, now's not the time, Tsunade roared with fury and fear. Keeping his wits about him, the collected GG continued his explanations. It's far too late to save the boy, Suheim. After exposure to the spores the powder produces, it takes 12 hours for it to take its course. Once that happens, the host is under the complete influence of Kuro's will, and Naruto was exposed 2 nights previous, he explained. With her breath now caught in her tea, Tsunade froze in her place as she stared into Gigi's closed eyes, searching for any kind of fault in his conviction. Seeing none whatsoever, she released the grip she had upon his robe, clenching her teeth in despair. Straightening his appearance, Gigi peered to his left, and his facial expression became serious. Reach out with your heart, can you feel it? The rage, the hate, the madness that tears through his very soul as we speak. Suan concluded that she fully understood where the short old man was coming from. I've felt since the moment he woke up this morning. I thought it was just my imagination, you know, Tsunade said with a noticeably shaky voice. I had no idea it ran this deep, but I should have guessed Kuro's reasons for letting him live after the first time, or at all even. Gigi turned back to the younger woman. Then you must also be aware that it's not over. Tsunade's fist tightened greatly at hearing that. Kuro's body may be lifeless, but his will now lives on, within Naruto. Poor child. A demon fueling his power, and a devil fueling his hatred, Gigi said. To say that Tsunade was now at a loss for words and answers, would be accurate. All she could do was stare at the ground in silence, wishing that she knew what to do. You must make your decision immediately, Suheim. Nekoshi and Kitsune will return to ensure the final act. The hazel-eyed woman's face blew up with shock at those words. What did you say? If ever there was a time you wished to speak to your former student, then you'll have your chance. Those two will arrive here to ensure that Naruto's fate is final, and you'll have a choice. Either you can allow things to take their course, or you can intervene and make certain that those two never get to the boy, the old timer explained. Just be certain of this, young leader, if you allow Naruto to stay within these walls, he will forever be lost, his soul and mind will be twisted by the evil that now festers within his young heart, he continued. As if she didn't have enough to worry about. Tsunade stared hard into Gigi's closed eyes. I understand, but tell me something, if I were to allow this to happen, if I were to let them do what they intend, then what? She asked in a quiet tone. Quote. Then you will be spared the agonizing tea of having to exile the Yondaim's only son from his own home. Once he learns of his inevitable fate, he will leave upon his own free will in the hopes that he will never lay harm to the ones he loves. He will go with Nekoshi and Kitsune, and that will be the end of it, Gigi answered. Tsunade's hair fell over her eyes, agonizing over the situation. She knew something was wrong. She could feel something amiss even long after she figured out Kuro's intentions for Naruto, but she just didn't act. She truly knew not what to do. The choice is yours to make, Suheim. You're the leader of this village, and I shall no longer impede upon your decisions. Upon those words, Tsunade looked up for a final time and saw that Gigi was completely gone. Chunin Stadium. Naruto. Sakura yelled as she walked after the steaming blonde. Naruto, wait. Naruto, after witnessing Ino and Sakura lock lips right in front of him, was power walking away from the two with a heavy scowl upon his face. Naruto-kun, hang on. Give us a chance to explain, Ino shouted after him. Not willing to respond, the black-clad Jinchuriki kept walking without a single acknowledgement. Despite the desperate pleas, he didn't even consider stopping for them. But what happened next intensified the situation. Sakura forced him to stop with a powerful grip on his arm. Now wait just a minute, Naruto. Can't you at least give 2 lousy seconds to explain? She yelled a little more forcefully than she intended. The pink-haired female resheathed the recognition she wished for when Naruto whipped his head to her direction, holding his soul-shaking scowl, and causing her to squirm inside. She flinched back as she felt the scorn of Naruto's expression. He harshly spared his arm from Sakura's grip before facing her completely and crossing his arms. Out of frightful impulse, Sakura stumbled back as she stared hopelessly into the blonde's eyes. I'm waiting, he said with a slight growl to his voice. Suddenly at loss for words, Sakura pressed her index fingers together and stammered upon what little words she could actually produce. Come on, spit it out, Naruto yelled without mercy, Give me one good reason why I should stick around you two any longer. It was at that moment that Ino stepped up beside the distraught Sakura. Now hold on a second. I'll have you know that we did that for you. We were trying to. I don't think I asked you, he snapped out. The bleached blonde Kunoichi gasped sharply as she felt the same biting scorn at that very moment as well. Naruto-kun. Now tell me why I should stay here and listen to your pitiful excuses, Naruto demanded again, glaring directly at Sakura. Feeling the need to explain her actions more than ever, Sakura swallowed hard and fortified her best efforts to do so. Listen, Naruto. I know it was sudden, but we thought that you'd welcome the opportunity with open arms, Sakura feebly defended. Naruto's frown became more vivid. Welcome the opportunity. You honestly believed that I would welcome you Frenching someone else in front of me with open arms, he roared in disbelief. Sakura stammered further, feeling more and more stricken by her mistake. How could you, Sakura-chan? I trusted you, Naruto. You start other relationships behind my back, and I trusted you. It was at that moment that a bold Ino took a defensive stand between the two, in opposition to Naruto. With a look of shock written on his face, the blonde boy stared at her. Stop it, Naruto-kun. I told you before that we did it for you. We wanted to show you that we hooked up just for you, Ino shouted. Silence filled the empty Chunin Stadium at that very moment. Indeed, Naruto had heard and understood every word just spoken to him, but he could feel his anger start to rise to the surface. He just stood there, with his mouth hanging open, still trying to comprehend why they one-upped and betrayed him right before his very eyes. Retaining his facial expression, Naruto simply turned around and leaned forward against the wall of the stadium. He stared into the wall as he drove his fingers into it, feeling yet another burning sensation within his heart. Are you listening to me? Ino shouted from behind him. Upon this, Naruto's teeth clinged hard as he stared at his trembling hand. Even in his current state, he began to swell up with fear as he quite literally saw nothing but red. The distraught blonde became short of breath and he clutched his hand over his thumping heart. Glaring into the wall, Naruto became completely deaf to the cries and yells behind him. Instead, he lost control of his reactions and launched his fist into the wall. This action gained a terrified gasp from both Ino and Sakura, who stared at the boy in shock. Naruto, realizing what he had just did, yanked his fist out of the damaged wall before latching both of his hands onto his now aching head. Groaning in sudden pain, he fell to his knees whispering distasteful curses in the air. Naruto. Hearing that voice, for some reason, nearly drove Naruto mad. He vanished completely from sight and didn't even think of looking back. Central building. A downhearted Tsunade returned to her office with a look of hopelessness on her face. Closing the door behind her, the blonde woman walked to her desk and practically dropped into her seat. She leaned back into her chair and stared at the ceiling in wonder, brainstorming her severely limited options. Her thinking would have to wait, however, as the sound of her office door reopening shook her out of it. Though she continued to stare at the ceiling, Tsunade knew who it was. She straightened herself back up and immediately saw a look on her face that was almost identical to her own. Hopelessness. So, you heard every word, huh? Tsunade solemnly asked. Hi, Tsunade-sama, Shizune murmured. Approaching her master's desk, Shizune took the seat before it and stared into her eyes for any sort of answer. She was obviously as lost as Tsunade was, but the fact stood clear that business came first. I came to inform you that the harvest is complete. The organs have been contained and are waiting for you at the Anbu headquarters, Shizune said in the most professional demeanor she could muster. Sadly, the most she received from her beloved master was an, okay. It was painfully obvious that she wasn't necessarily focused on the subject. Shizune searched Tsunade's lost eyes. Tsunade-sama, what will you do? The brunette Jonin asked. Looking down at only her desk, the hazel-eyed Sanin couldn't answer that question in good conscience. She knew she didn't have much time, and she also knew that Gigi was not lying. She could feel it in her bones. Without giving her apprentice even a look, Tsunade turned her attention back to the book she was studying upon, trying with all of her strength to let it all go, as that seemed to be the best thing she could possibly do for poor Naruto Sake. More importantly, she contemplated how to confront the inevitable. How to confront her former pupil for the first time in 14 years. Feeling every fiber of her master's anguish down to the very teeth, Shizun's face fell even deeper. Oh Tsunade-sama, she thought sorrowfully. Deciding that her presence would be a bother at this point, Shizun rose from her seat and turned for the door. Reaching out for the knob, the black-dressed kunoichi gave her master one last look before turning it. However, before she was even able to open the door, another person from the other side knocked on it. Raising an eyebrow to this, Shizun cautiously opened the door and saw the person behind it. Her voice caught into her tea, unable to utter a single word. Her eyes went wide and livid, and her hands fell to her sides as she stared into the shaded sunglasses of the man before her. How did you get in here? Well, infiltrating this village, sneaking through the busy streets without a peep and getting up here without getting ked is in a league all in its own right, let me tell you what. Luckily, I'm just that damn good, the man bragged. Hearing the voice from where she was, Tsunade looked up and saw a petrified Shizun at the office entryway. Who is that? She questioned. Her response was Shizun backing away as the new presence entered the office. As this person came into clear view, Tsunade froze up at the same instant. Gently shoving Shizun aside, the man fully showed himself to the godime. I've finally returned to you, my master. Why, you? Tsunade stammered as she stared at the man. You. That's it. That's all you have to say to me after 14 long years. You're one cold-hearted bee, you know that, he stated. Tsunade regained as much focus as she could muster as she prepared for a good old-fashioned interrogation. Nekoshi, wa. I didn't come here to fight, Shushu, I came here to talk, the white-haired veteran interrupted, but why don't you, Shizun and I go someplace a little more open? Upon those words, Nekoshi waved his hand through the air, residual chakra trailing from his fingers. In a single instant, Tsunade's office was completely morphed into a spectral array of cosmic anomalies, flying and speeding past them as though they were all traveling somewhere at speeds unimaginable. Tsunade observed the mind-boggling phenomena in complete awe, before stealing her focus upon the one responsible. Shizun fell on her bottom as she lost her balance staring into the wild display. Several seconds afterwards, everything stopped as instantaneously as it began, revealing a place, far from Konoha. Barren, bitter cold, frozen over. Welcome, to my little S of hell. Bordering walls of Konoha. The distinctive sound of heart-wrenching sobs echoed into the air from the railed walkways atop the protective walls. Sitting upon them, was a heartbroken and severely frightened Naruto, his legs hanging through the railing. The torturous images of Sakura kissing Ino in front of him constantly replayed in his head, and his heart ached every time. I don't understand. How could she do that to me? He questioned out loud. The sense of betrayal was bad enough, but what Naruto felt with that, is what scared him half to death. Bloodlust, malice, a desire for S. Those feelings resided in his heart and burned at his soul. All of those feelings were directed toward Ino and Sakura. The very prospect of those thoughts were almost enough to tear the blonde in two different directions. Naruto lowered his head and leered unto his hands, noticing that he was still seeing nothing but red. Feeling truly lost at that moment, all he felt he could do was cry. However, he immediately ceased his wails when he felt the presence of another. The strange thing about it, aside from the fact that he knew exactly who it was that he wasn't frightened by this presence. For a reason he could not comprehend, he welcomed it. Though focused on the person behind him, Naruto's tearful eyes peered into the wilderness before him. Naruto-chan, said the person behind him. What do you want from me? No, it's not about what we want, Naruto-chan, it's about what you want, and what we can give you. Standing behind the lost Naruto was none other than Kitsune, staring down at him with a heavy heart. All I want is to be left alone. Go away, the black-clad genin snapped. In an instantaneous reaction, the blue-haired female fell to her knees and latched her arms around Naruto, much to his unyielding shock. Speechless and wide-eyed, Naruto froze where he was, unable to utter anything. They've hurt you, Naruto-chan. I can feel your agony, your grief, Kitsune cooed. Naruto frowned out of impulse. What do you know of it, to be thrown aside for someone you trusted? To be betrayed knowing that you'd never do anything to hurt the one you love. What the hell do you know of anything? He roared. At this, the tanned Akatsuki warrior expressed her audacity and pulled Naruto as close as she could possibly muster. Gaining even further surprise from the woman's actions, Naruto could feel her BS pressed hard upon his back and could feel the intense warmth of her body against his. Ah, your soul is crying, burning for release. It can feel every fiber of your insanity, child, she huffed breathlessly. Kitsune sent her hands to Naruto's head, surfing her fingers through his shaggy, unkempt hair. Out of sheer reaction, the Jinchuriki closed his eyes. We wish to help you, Naruto-chan, we wish to free you from your torment, she huffed again. Kitsune's ministrations kept Naruto from saying anything at all, as he was only able to exhale many groans of relaxation. You seek answers to questions that have haunted you your whole life. These answers, you will never find in this place, Naruto-chan. You will never find peace until you release yourself from the ties that bind, Kitsune cooed. Naruto's eyes slightly cracked open as he heard this. I can't leave my home. There are still things I have to do. I want to be. Who would have you, child? Can you honestly accept living in a place that will only use and betray you? Can you truly accept your lover for what she did to you? The blonde Genin's eyes opened a bit more at that last bit. I can still feel your agony, Naruto-chan, all that was taken from you can never be replaced, your rights, your childhood, your love. Do you truly wish to love those who will never truly love you back? Do you truly want to live in a place where you're known only as a being of infamy? Growing more and more distraught, Naruto's tears fell again. No. Then what is it, Naruto-chan, what is it that you truly want out of it all? Submit unto me, your greatest desire, Kitsune demanded in a somewhat hissing tone. EDSs of vile darkness began to emanate from the blonde's head as the foul maiden caressed his skull. The young ninja was overwhelmed by a mysterious influence that Kitsune further intensified with her temptations. Freedom. Without realizing it, Naruto's eyes began to bleed profusely. The residual darkness around his person seeped into his cranial orifice. Then the time for waiting has at last ended. Without hesitation in the slightest, Kitsune relinquished a sharpened kunai knife, and jabbed it right into Naruto's stomach. Heaving at the sudden feeling of cold hard steel forced into him, Naruto was paralyzed to do anything about it. Thin trails of blood leaked down the corners of his mouth as he choked on his fluids. When your trials in this place have been endured, fox child, remember this name, Kitsune cooed before spinning the kunai up, through and out of his belly, Shumatsu no Tani. After that seemingly meaningless brutality, the brown-eyed female rose to her feet with the bloody Naruto in her arms, before tossing him off of the protective walls they were on. She turned around and stared down at the plummeting Naruto and his thick trail of blood. That's where you will find us, Naruto-chan. Meanwhile, at the frozen wasteland, Nekoshi stared into the eyes of his former master without moving an inch, Tsunade returning the stare. On the sidelines was Shizune, who had to keep focused in order to keep from crumbling at the pressure building up between the two. So, you said you wanted to talk, Nekoshi. Well, here I am, Tsunade said tenaciously. Yes, I did say that, didn't I? Nekoshi said with a complete drop to his smile. I'll cut right to the chase. I understand that you and Naruto have gotten rather close during the short time you've spent together, is that right? Tsunade didn't answer. Let me be the first to tell you how bad that is. I'm here, Shushu, to ensure that you do not interfere with his liberation, Nekoshi stated. The blonde Sanin frowned deeply at hearing this. I see, and what if I was to interfere? What happens then? She questioned at a challenging pitch. At first, Nekoshi was silent as death, but then he smiled a smile that Shizune knew all too well. In the fraction of an instant Nekoshi was standing before his former master with his circular cycles around her and Shizune crouching beside him with 3 sanbon placed to his side. HM. Well, isn't this nostalgic? The white-haired man sighed. You didn't even flinch. Easing out of his sly position, Nekoshi twirled his weapons before replacing them on his back. Yet he remained practically in Tsunade's face. Not letting her guard down for even a moment, Shizune remained right where she was, just in case. I'm glad to see that you haven't gotten soft, Nekoshi said, but of course, I shouldn't expect any less from one of the legendary Sanin. Why did you come back? Tsunade questioned, almost making the venom in her voice as clear as day. Business, Shushu. I'm sure you understand how that is. Then again, you haven't even attacked me, so maybe I'm wrong. Enough of your games, Nekoshi. The red-coated warrior raised an eyebrow to the sudden outburst, but was taken completely by surprise when he saw Tsunade's grief-stricken face. Why are you still taking actions in his name, Nekoshi? Why are you still fighting for him? She demanded. Nekoshi almost laughed at this. Without warning in the absolute slightest, he whirled to his right and clasped a powerful grip on Shizune's skull before throwing her a great distance behind him. She collided face first into a solid glacier and lost consciousness. Tsunade gasped at this and clenched her fist tightly. Is that what you're getting so worked up about? I guess talking about Naruto is out of the question at this point, eh? Tell me, Nekoshi. Why? Nekoshi sighed as he marched past his former master until they were back to back. Tsunade Shushu, you're almost like a mother to me. TCH. What the hell am I talking about? You are a mother to me. If it weren't for you, my life would be over before it even began, he started. Do you remember, Shushu? When you found me, you remember all of the stories you told me of how everything changed that day. Tsunade found herself staring at her reflection upon the frozen sheet of ice they stood on. You raised me. You taught me so much, Shushu. You trained me until my bones snapped. You drove me to break myself and become stronger every time. You told me that I was destined for greatness among the heroes of the Leaf Village. Tsunade's eyes darkened behind her hair. But it wasn't enough. There was one gap in my soul that was neglected, and no matter how hard I tried, no matter how hard I searched, I could not figure out what it was. I used your willingness to construct me into a true ninja, to nurture the emptiness that simply wouldn't leave me. For the better part of my time in the village, I was truly lost. That is, until I met him. Konoha. Blood. Darkness. An echoing and heavily distorted voice of unwavering dominance pleaded his mind, throwing his psyche into a whirlpool of chaos. Rage. Lust. Warped images of his past meshed into his memories and opened his mind. Carnage. Torment. The fires of hell morphed his memories into nightmares. The overpowering sense of bloodlust engulfed his spirit, throwing him into the maelstrom of his own destructive will. Now, awaken. Upon that final command, Naruto's eyes flipped open. His lungs burned for air, and his eyes were racked with pain. He rose to a sitting position, drawing a long winded breath before unleashing a terrible cry of anguish, holding the area on his body where he had been open. Naruto's wound festered and shifted spastically as he hunched over. As predicted, the gaping wound healed, but in less than 2 seconds. Suddenly feeling great release, he silenced his laments, lifted himself from the ground and cracked the joints in his en. For some mysterious reason, he was deaf to the callings of his name. Hey, Naruto, what are you doing all the way out here? Kiba Inuzuka, a Kamaru perched in his hoodie, called out. Once again, his calls fell upon deaf ears as the dog tamer watched Naruto peer in every direction but his, as though he had no idea where he was. Tilting his head in confusion, Kiba approached Naruto further. Hey, come on, dumbass. Don't tell me you got lost in your own home, he joked. Again, no response. Because of the lack of reactions from the normally short-tempered blonde boy, Kiba started to grow a little concerned. But as soon as he took another step, Akamaru started whining. Startled by the sudden behavior, Kiba brushed his hand upon his companion's head. Hey, buddy, what's wrong? Upon this, Naruto steadily turned his head toward Kiba and Akamaru. Looking up, the hooded genin saw that he finally got Naruto's attention. However, when he saw his fellow shinobi's awkward posture, he became confused. And when he saw the stains of dry blood trailing from his eyes and mouth, he got a tad curious. Naruto, you alright, pal? Who kicked your ass? Kiba asked. The expression on Naruto's face was also cause for mild concern, as it bore a striking resemblance of a child discovering something wondrous, bewildered and somewhat awestruck. Akamaru started barking like a mad dog before whining again and diving into Kiba's hoodie, much to his surprise. What's gotten into you, boy? He said before staring back up at Naruto. Kiba's instincts started to act up as he saw the Jinchuriki's pupils start to dilate. Within seconds, the pupils in both of his eyes expanded so much, that his blue irises were engulfed by black and only a fraction of white could be seen. Growing more uncomfortable each passing moment, Kiba felt like he overstayed his welcome. Well, Alright then, I guess I'll be getting out of your hair now, he nervously suggested. Do not move. Kiba raised an eyebrow at this, but before he could say anything about it, Naruto lunged at him with a furious roar. Unable to react in time to avoid it, Kiba was taken to the ground with Naruto on top of him. The crazed blonde held his head to the pavement with his hand pushed against his teeth. Struggling to free himself, the frantic dog tamer squirmed and writhed against Naruto's oppression. As he stared into his attacker's blackened eyes, he saw him lift a clawed hand overhead. Naruto. As he was about to strike his victim down, Naruto was suddenly disturbed by Akamaru, who launched out of his master's hoodie and clamped onto his attacker's face with his teeth. Grunting in pain, Naruto released Kiba from under him and grasped the dog mauling his face, giving the now alerted Inuzuka the time to escape. Spinning Akamaru from his face, Naruto threw him away and returned his focus on the startled Kiba, who was just able to get to his feet. Naruto, what the hell are you doing? He yelled. The only response he received was an overwhelming wave of mouse intent that made him shiver tremendously. Kiba stared into Naruto's eyes and realized that his old friend simply wasn't there. What was even more bizarre was the fact that he was absolutely terrified. Even Akamaru, who stood his ground on Naruto's flank, had his tail between his legs as he growled at him. Drool oozed down Naruto's chin as he leered at the frightened dog tamer. He slowly marched toward Kiba without taking his eyes off of him, viscerally growling with malicious desire. Instantly going into fight or flight mode, Kiba prepped himself for battle. That is until Akamaru started barking at him. When Kiba caught wind of what his companion said to him, his eyes widened. What? Are you telling me that? Without warning, Naruto dipped into a blurring sprint by sheer explosive power. Reacting quicker than before, Kiba caught this act. Damn it, he cursed before diving out of the way and dashing toward his canine partner. Naruto came to a grinding halt as he trailed Kiba's movement. Kiba, he roared ferociously. Snatching Akamaru, Kiba focused his chakra and disappeared from sight via Shintention no Jutsu. Seeing this, the twisted Naruto fell to his knees and cursed. However, with no other people around, he grew more and more restless and finally decided to go to the people themselves. Destroy, condemn, obliterate. With the mysterious voice continuously whispering commands in his head, the black-clad genin held his head tightly again as he yelled in pain. K them all. Losing all sense of himself, Naruto obeyed the command and made a mad dash toward the closest populated area of the village. From above, atop the railed walls of the village, Kitsune stood as she observed what had just happened. MHM. The end begins. Standing atop one of the buildings of the village, was Kakashi Hatake, engaging in his usual task of reading his Led Ika Paradise. Unfortunately for the masked Jonin, his mind was too preoccupied on other matters to actually enjoy it. When Kakashi can't focus on the addicting ways of the Cetrus arts, then something is really eating at him. The images of Kuro's graphic autopsy, organ harvest, replayed constantly in his mind, disturbing him from his preferred free time. Though he really wished to see what would happen in his smut-filled stories, the silver-haired Jonin simply couldn't get into it. With a sigh, Kakashi closed the book and replaced it in his weapon pouch. Just as he was about to jump to the ground and go for a simple walk to clear his head, he heard his name called from behind. Kakashi-sensei. Recognizing the voice, Kakashi turned around and was surprised to see Kiba running toward him. Oh, hello Kiba. To what do I owe this visit? He uncaringly greeted. Catching his breath after a short while, Kiba stared up at his superior. It's Naruto. Something's seriously wrong with him, he shouted with Akamaru barking in agreement. Staring blankly at Kurenai's young student, Kakashi crossed his arms. Son, I've been Naruto's sensei for almost a year now, and I don't even know what's right with him, he said dismissively. I'm serious. I found him by the village walls a few minutes ago, and he tried to cane me, Kiba informed. Hearing that last bit caused Kakashi's expression to harden a bit. That doesn't sound like Naruto. Could this be what Tsunade-sama and Jiraiya-sama warned us about? He thought carefully. I don't know what's gotten into him, but, whatever it is, it can't be good. He didn't even seem human anymore. Kakashi was now almost entirely certain that trouble was afoot. Kiba, Find the rest of your team and tell them what happened. I'm gonna go check this out, the one-eyed shinobi ordered. Yosh. Both of them parted ways to carry out the tasks. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.